Gun and car incidents over 2 days leave 15 dead in Texas. U.S. prepares to fast-track $500 million of arms for Taiwan. Ukraine downs Russian hypersonic missile with U.S. Patriot. WHO says COVID-19 is no longer a global emergency. Apple taps Korean Webcomics to revive its Books app. Tens of thousands join protests against Israeli judicial overhaul. Royals wear historic robes while guests don bold colors for Coronation. Canada Alberta declares state of emergency over wildfires.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Monday, May 8th, and here are your top stories. Texas police said at least 7 pedestrians were killed and several others injured on Sunday when an SUV mowed down people near a homeless shelter that attends to migrants in Brownsville. Brownsville Police Department said the victims in the morning crash were waiting at a bus stop near Ozanam Center, a shelter for the homeless used by migrants. Just one day before, a gunman shot and killed 8 people and wounded at least 7 others at a busy mall north of Dallas, Texas, last Saturday.
Deadly mass shooting at a mall in Texas.
And within the last hour, police revealed 8 people were killed.
One unidentified eyewitness told local ABC affiliate WFAA-TV that the gunman was walking down the sidewalk just shooting his gun outside, and that he was just shooting his gun everywhere for the most part. The gunman was killed by a police officer after he began firing outside of the mall in Allen, Texas. TV aerial images showed hundreds of people calmly walking out of the mall, located about 40 kilometers northeast of Dallas, after the violence unfolded, many with their hands up as scores of police stood guard.
The Biden administration is preparing a $500 million weapons package for Taiwan, using a fast-track authority that it has relied on to speed arms to Ukraine. People familiar with the matter said the package will involve sending existing stockpiles of U.S. weapons or support equipment to Taiwan under what's known as a presidential drawdown authority. Using a drawdown will let the U.S. sidestep the often lengthy process of contracting and producing weapons.
The U.S. approved a $619 million arms sale to the democratically self-governing island.
Bloomberg reported the U.S. Congress authorized President Joe Biden to use as much as $1 billion in U.S. inventory to supply Taiwan with arms in the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. The Defense Department spokesperson said that the Presidential Drawdown Authority was authorized last year in order to deliver vital security assistance in support of Taiwan's self-defense. He said the administration's approach remains consistent with long-standing U.S. policy as outlined in the Taiwan Relations Act.
Ukraine's Air Force claimed last Saturday to have downed a Russian hypersonic missile over Kyiv using newly acquired American Patriot defense systems, the first known time the country has been able to intercept one of Moscow's most modern missiles. Ukraine's Air Force Commander Mykola Olenschuk said the Kinzhal-type ballistic missile had been intercepted in an overnight attack on the Ukrainian capital earlier last week. It was also the first time Ukraine is known to have used the Patriot defense systems.
Thanks to the Patriot system, Ukraine shot down the Russian Kinzhal for the first time.
Oleshchuk said the Kh-47 missile was launched by a MiG-31K aircraft from Russian territory and was shot down with a Patriot missile. He said, it happened during the nighttime attack on May 4th in the skies of the Kyiv region. The Kinzhal is one of the latest and most advanced Russian weapons. The Russian air-launched ballistic missile is said to have a range of up to 2,000 kilometers and flies at 10 times the speed of sound, making it hard to intercept.
The World Health Organization said last Friday that COVID-19 no longer qualifies as a global emergency, marking a symbolic end to the devastating coronavirus pandemic that triggered once unthinkable lockdowns, upended economies worldwide, and killed at least 7 million people worldwide. The WHO said that even though the emergency phase was over, the pandemic hasn't come to an end, noting recent spikes in cases in Southeast Asia and the Middle East.
The pandemic is officially over. The World Health Organization today declared an end to the COVID-19 global health emergency.
WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said, "It's with great hope that I declare COVID-19 over as a global health emergency." Tedros said the pandemic had been on a downward trend for more than a year, acknowledging that most countries have already returned to life before COVID-19. When the UN Health Agency first declared the coronavirus to be an international crisis on January 30, 2020, It hadn't yet been named COVID-19 and there were no major outbreaks beyond China.
I always needed time on my own. I never thought I'd be here.
I take your blessings with your heartaches too. It's so easy and so wonderful to know it's you.
学习，一切从今天开始。Funday 英语。
Apple Inc. is betting on Korean Webcomics to give a jolt of life to its Books app. The Cupertino, California-based firm signed a 3-year exclusive contract with South Korean startup CanadaDeclares in December to supply online comics known as webtoons. According to the firm, the new content was rolled out in Japan last month and will expand to cover all 51 countries where Books is available. The value of the deal was not disclosed.
Webtoons are Korea's favorite way of consuming digital comics and provide the inspiration for many of the country's global hits from dark zombie comedy All of Us Are Dead to monster epic Sweet Home. The format, which has users scrolling through full-color, super short episodes on their phones or PCs, has been around for decades. Unlike conventional manga or comic books, authors draw webtoons accounting for how much screen space is created by a single scroll down on a device.
Tens of thousands of Israelis joined protests across the country last Saturday against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's bitterly disputed plans to tighten controls on the Supreme Court. Israel's Channel 12 estimated 110,000 people demonstrated in Tel Aviv alone, with other demonstrations held in cities across the country. The biggest street protests ever seen in Israel are now in their 18th consecutive week. A lawyer among the protesters said he was optimistic about swaying public opinion.
The planned overhaul has been put on hold in an attempt to give time for Israeli President Isaac Herzog, who plays a largely ceremonial role, to broker a compromise between the coalition and opposition which could see the legislation softened. According to a poll released by the Israeli public broadcaster last Friday after 5 months into the far-right coalition government's term, 74% of Israelis think the government is functioning poorly.
From traditional robes to statement headpieces, royals and guests wore an array of colorful outfits for the coronation of Britain's King Charles III last Saturday, filling London's Westminster Abbey with a mix of hues and designs. The monarch arrived in the crimson velvet robe of state, worn by his grandfather King George VI at his 1937 coronation, a crimson coronation tunic and cream silk overshirt with royal naval trousers. Charles was crowned with the historic St. Edward's crown that has been used since the coronation of King Charles II in 1661.
The king and queen left the abbey in purple robes of estate, Charles's, previously worn by George VI, and Camilla's, designed by the Royal School of Needlework and featuring nature-themed embroidery. The Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, wore formal robes and mantles over their outfits, with the heir to the throne in the ceremonial dress uniform of the Welsh Guards and his wife wearing a headpiece made of silver and crystal leaves instead of a tiara.
Alberta, Canada last Saturday declared a provincial state of emergency after tens of thousands of Albertans have been forced to evacuate their homes as unprecedented wildfires rage on in Alberta. Premier Daniel Smith said by Saturday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, more than 24,000 Albertans have been evacuated from their homes, with 110 active wildfires across the province, and 36 out of control. She said additional firefighters had arrived today from Quebec and Ontario.
Among the communities evacuated was Brazeau County, including all 7,000 people living in Drayton Valley, 140 kilometers west of the province's capital Edmonton. The entire community of 3,600 people in Fox Lake was also among the evacuees, where the 1,458-hectare Fox Lake fire consumed 20 homes and the police station. The premier said CAD $1.5 billion has been put aside as a contingency because the government knows a significant amount might be needed for emergency management.
Now let's take a look at the vocabulary of the news of Coronation. Number 1, array, 大堆大群大量. As the deadline approached, she experienced an array of emotions. Number 2, hue, 颜色色度色调. His face took on an unhealthy whitish hue. Number 3, embroidery. The shorts had blue embroidery over the pockets. Number 4, heir 继承人后嗣 Her duty was to produce an heir to the throne. And that's all for today's Funday news. Be sure to tune into Funday news from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.